Yeah, Southern Fried Soundstage, Cornbread Man here on a New Year's Eve. Happy New Year early, depending on where you're at in the world. Maybe it is already New Year. You might be ahead of us. But for a lot of us here on the East Coast, we still have a little time. I'm going to do a show. Then I'm going to take a break, go on somebody else's show, and hang out for a little bit until it gets a little crazy. Too crazy for me. I'm tame. I'm very tame. I'm very I'm not that dude. I'm not that dude anymore. And then I'm gonna come back about 10:30, I think, and welcome in the new year. 10:30, 11, somewhere in there. Hey, Southern Fried Soundstage. We are part 4 of Def Leppard. We started out with the rock band Tesla. And then a band that I'm very close to, Def Leppard. We did the early years up through High to Dry. Then we did Pyromania. Then last week we did Hysteria. Obviously not in depth. We'd been there. We'd done a month of shows, but we did a pretty good dive into that. Tonight it is the bridge between the band that was and the band that is. And we're going to talk about that time between, and might lead, just get right up onto, might even touch base a little bit, depending on time, with Adrenalize. And then part 5 will take us from Adrenalize forward, and then we'll go to another band. So I got another week anyway. It doesn't mean I won't come back. I reserve the right to come back and talk about Def Leppard anytime. There's 40, 50 years of material. I mean, and material meaning not just music, but stories, news, things that happen. But tonight it did. The time frame is after Hysteria tour ended. That's where we were at last week, and the 15-month tour. Could have released another single, could have hit the road, went back for another summer shed tour. Decided we're burnt out. We got to get back. It's been 15 months of touring, and we've made a bundle of money. The miracle of paying off the debts from the 4 years between Pyromania and Hysteria, and then way beyond that, 3.5 million albums, just to 3 to 3.5 million albums just to break even. between U.S. and Canada, over 15.5 million sold. The only thing that held them out of the top spot was the Thriller album from Michael Jackson. Highly successful. But it probably, looking at it, maybe it wouldn't. It probably was the best decision to come off the road. Things were beginning to crack a little bit for Steve Clark. Steve had always been a heavy drinker, but so had the whole band at one time. I mean, they were, you just didn't hear the stories. People may not believe it, but they claim that they drank just as heavy and partied just as hard as any band out there, be it Ozzy, Motley Crue. In fact, they toured with these guys, and they held their own. They just kept things they didn't do it openly. They didn't, meaning, and it wasn't a time of social media, but they didn't go looking to be in the press, where other bands seemingly found themselves there a lot. Def Leppard didn't, except for the tragedies and a couple of unfortunate incidents, especially one in the Hysteria tour about the particular people group that Joe mentioned. We talked about that last week. But Steve Clark had a real, ongoing alcoholic problem. His dad was an alcoholic. They'd go out drinking together. Some said he always wanted to hear, his dad was proud of him. We all come from that generation where our dads didn't say that they loved us. I came through that. I never heard that till way late in life. My dad wasn't a drinker, but I don't know, their relationship was kind of odd. Steve would come out of rehab, and then his dad would say, "Hey, you want to hit the pub?" And that's, you just can't do an alcoholic like an addict like that. During the Hysteria tour, and Rick Allen was dealing with PTSD from losing the arm, and did for 20 years until it was diagnosed. And so Rick, Phil, one of the big things that happened for the band was, Phil and Steve were best friends, just great friends, party friends. I mean, they played, they're working on all the music together, guitar players, they hang together. Steve was a riff master, just excellent, and played very loose and, just very open and, wasn't trying to be technically proficient, whereas Phil was more like he wanted to be very technical. They made a great combination, as that tandem. We're going to show some pictures here in a minute. But Phil, at some point, and they were heavy drinkers. I mean, during the recording of Hysteria, there were all kind of crazy stories that they would wake up places and didn't remember how they got there. They would have an armful of Rolexes, didn't remember buying them. It was getting bad. And Phil, at some point, said, I'm done with drinking. And he has not drank since. He is a workout warrior, keeps his body in, his greatest shape. I mean, he's in his 70s, I believe, late 60s, early 70s. And he works out all the time and does the martial arts, MMA, all that kind of stuff, just to stay in shape. He decided to, look, I can't do this no more. So he went on the wagon and stayed on it, which is hard to do in that lifestyle, but he did it. That was not good for Steve. Not to say, I'm not placing any blame there on Phil. Phil needed to do what Phil needed to do, and that would be what Steve needed to do, but Steve couldn't get there. And so him and Rick Allen began, and not that they hadn't before, but they became the drinking buddies. And Rick, from his own account, would say, "Hey, Steve, man, you don't drink so heavy, because Steve would get a little smashed, and he was a very shy guy, very sensitive spirit. He loved it. He was a big cut up, but as he would get wasted in these bars, he would get up on the stage and dance and do all this crazy stuff. He loved the idea of being able to tell people, I am a guitar player in one of the biggest bands in the world, Def Leppard. But at the same time, he hated the attention. He hated that. Stage fright was definitely a part of it. We talked about that last week. It was really hard for him when he got to stage. So he was drinking during shows. I mean, the encore, he always came out with a Heineken. I remember that. Every show I went to that Steve was in, which was all of them except for the last couple where Vivian was there, Steve came out with beer. I mean, he was drinking. And some of the other guys were too, but Phil went clean. But him and Rick would hang out, and Rick has all this PTSD going on. And but he is also doing cocaine. I don't know if I'm sure that Steve was dabbling in other drugs and stuff, pills and stuff like that too. His girlfriend talks about it. She was an addict, a former addict, and what it was toxic for them, for each other. And I've seen this before. People that meet each other in rehab come out and they get together and they're constantly falling off the wagon. Well, that was not good for them. And I don't think Steve's family were very close to her because they viewed her as a person that was enabling and stuff like that. And so it was, if you listen to her stories about the last days, it was very hard. Her family was, I think they're afraid that she was, going to try to take stuff. I mean, they didn't get married, and that's what happens. I mean, family. Hey, I had a friend that died. He was a heavy drinker, had a lot of health problems, and when he died, he had to move some people in. These people bled him dry. I went with his mom. She called me up to go, and I was trying, same kind of thing, trying to get him to slow down, to recognize, to get rid of these bums that was hanging around and people that were takers. And the day we went to go to the apartment, we had to call the police. They weren't even supposed to be in the apartment. They had taken all of his even his clothes were missing. They had cashed the last disability check he got. She got most of that back because they realized they were in trouble. But all of his possessions almost all of them were gone. Well, families, think about that. What happens? I mean, Steve had a lot of money. Steve had royalties coming in. He was making money, lots of money still, and he had lots of guitars and stuff like that. Equipment, possessions. So there's all the dynamic going on. But so anyway, Steve is drinking really heavily. Him and Rick would go out, and Rick would say, "Steve, come on, don't drink so much." And he would say, "Well, what about you?" Kind of like a back in your face, like the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, look at you. I know what you're doing, and it would sting him. And so they had this kind of they cared about each other, loved each other, but addicts will do that to you. They will look for reasons to get back. So they take the break. They begin, not a long break. They begin to work on the Adrenalize. I don't even know if it had a name then, but they were working on music. Steve is bad, and it's not working. There was some months there. They would work on stuff, and Steve just couldn't function. I mean, before he drank heavily, but he was able to function. And that's what happens. This progression of alcoholism or whatever it is. You think you're okay. You think you're okay. I can handle it until you can't. And Steve could not. And so they tried to work around that. They couldn't get anything that was, and that was, I mean, think about how far he came. This guy could write, and they were never the same on the riffs after that, honestly. I mean, he brought that to that band, and his live presence was unmistakable. But he could not keep performing at the level he needed to for Def Leppard. If one thing, whether you like them or not, I think probably people are here, they probably just like music, or you're tuning in because you like them. One thing about Def Leppard, Vivian talks about this, is they work really hard to put on a good production. It's not loose. It's not. And he would say there's nothing like the singing is all them. They're not popping voices in. You got to keep your voice as best you can. You got to do your plan. You got to do your job. Have fun, but they take it very serious. There's no hijinks going on stage. They want a very solid presentation. I watched the interview with Vivian just from a few months ago. It might even been about a year ago, and he talked about that. Whereas when he plays with Last in Line, they're constantly changing stuff in the set, stuff like Leppard. No, it is very programmed that way. They want to make sure of where they're supposed to be. They rehearse the stuff down, and they've always taken it like that, and probably amplified it as they went on. And so Steve, it's a good thing they weren't on the road. He couldn't have played. He could not, anything that he recorded, or they tried to record with him in the room, they couldn't keep it. It was so bad. And that's a sad state, but that's what happens. And in his mind, he probably thinks, I'm coming up with these great licks that I've always done, and he couldn't do it. And so, you know how it is. I mean, you go your separate ways a lot after a tour is over. I mean, it's not like you're hanging together the whole time, and you go off and do your thing, and you come back together. I'm sure they were a little shocked. I mean, they're talking by phone. There was times they knew he was having a rough time, surely, especially Joe. But when they come together, it was shocking. And they just couldn't keep anything. So they make this and it's unfortunate. It's kind of like, I call it the taking the keys from your parents' time. And it's not easy. You got to do it, but who wants to be that person? As a son, I couldn't imagine telling my dad that. I had to tell my wife that because her health was starting to go down, and she's hanging on. She's recovering. But before she got really bad, I said, I don't want you driving anymore. And it was hard. But, I was doing the same thing they would have done for him. As for your safety, as for, you know, we just want you to get better. You know, I don't want something bad to happen. And so they gave him the break. Well, in one way, they're trying to do, because they felt like the pressure would be released a little bit, but the pressure was not, the pressure was a part of it, but the pressure is not the problem. The addiction is the problem. And they don't know how to do anything with that. And they're not obviously qualified to do anything with that. But they thought if they could take the pressure off, which probably put more pressure on him. And looking back, they sort of mentioned that in some of the interviews, is that we were trying to do the right thing. We thought if we could just give him 6 months, you know, like just hang out, spend some time with your girlfriend, you know, get well, get healthy. But that's like telling an alcoholic don't drink, or telling somebody that's, you know, snorting or shooting up or taking pills or whatever. Don't do, you know, slow down, you know, be healthy. I mean, it sounds good, but it's just not resonating in an addict's mind. I mean, he, you know, and his girlfriend is an addict too, recovering at times, on the wagon, off the wagon. And so probably nobody knows the whole story, but they do know this. I mean, the guy was being found passed out in places, bad places. You know, there was rehab trips. Joe would go see him, and he was. It's really sad to hear Joe talk about these trips to the rehab, where his hair always looked excellent. He always made sure but his skin was changing because of the addiction of the alcoholism, leathery, you know. And he would always say things like, "Thanks for coming." I mean, he would talk to him, you know, "Hey, I appreciate you coming." He would get out, he'd go straight to a bar, and that's what addicts do. And you know, I remember my mom didn't like a comment that Joe made one time before she passed. And my mom got close to this band too through me. And, you know, I told you about the story about her. Well, probably more so it would be in this show after Steve passed. But my mom, you know, through me, she booked rooms for me at concerts and stuff. And, you know, she watched some stuff with me, never went to a show. She had health problems herself early in her life. And, you know, my mom, very close, and she was always trying to help her oldest son, or her only son. But I have a half brother, and we have two sisters, and they went to see Def Leppard, and my kids love Def Leppard. And anyway, Joe, I think because he was frustrated, you know, there's a lot of pressure on the lead singer. He's the leader of the band without doubt. They all have their part, but Joe's the leader. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And Joe probably feeling the pressure of that, of you know, because people are upset. You know, how in the world could he get like this? And Joe's trying to say, I did everything I could, but he made a statement one time, and my mom didn't care for it. And he said, I'm not my brother's keeper. Ooh, I remember my mom saying, I don't like that. I don't like that. She felt really bad about what was, and none of us knew the totality of how bad it was for Steve. We just knew there had been some problems. But, you know, this is before really social media. I don't even know if I had a computer at this time, but, you know, you get bits and pieces of information, and you're looking for the new music. Like, we knew they were going to they weren't waiting 4 years. They wanted to get this thing out within months and get back on the road, you know, no more than a year out and go. So it's 1991, and they've given Steve the break, and it's not going well at all. He is, you know, he's trying to function, and at times would function okay, and at times it was really bad. But it was nothing could be saved on the recording, from my understanding, for Adrenalize, not one note. And Phil had to do both parts, you know, eventually, which I think he did a heck of a job. People say they want about Phil Collins. He was a friend to Steve, and he loved Steve, and it was hard for him, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But Phil, you know, he really thought through in the recording of that album and thought, how would Steve play this? He really separated himself from it. And it's like he's there. It's really an amazing job. Hit the band so hard. But anyway, I'm driving down the road in my town on that fateful day I found out, and on the local rock station after a song, and I'm just riding along. And then the next thing I know, they come on and say, you know, tragic news. Def Leppard guitarist Steve Clark has passed away. I like to run off the road. I mean, I literally pulled over and wept. I couldn't even function at that moment. I was so, this just destroyed me. Absolutely destroyed me that he died. He was I love all of them. He was one of my favorites. Just love Steve. I watched that guy a lot, man, when he was on stage. And he was a mystery kind of a guy, really, because you didn't always know what he was thinking. He was, a little closed. He was quiet. He wasn't the talker, and when he did, he was cutting up usually and stuff. Uh, he just had this aura about him. White lightning, that white suit that he would wear across. We'll look at pictures. I'll pull them up in a second, as I said, and he would wear that outfit, playing the double guitar and all that, and just love it. And I tried to, there's thousands of pictures, but I tried to pick pictures that I thought would be a good representation of some of my favorites, which is very hard. But I feel like these pictures were some of the ones that, for me, were my favorites of all time of Steve. And he changed over the years. I mean, people do. Hold on just a second. I wanted to just pull it up from the screen. I don't want to put it it squeezes it down when you put them in the StreamYard. So let me just, let's see, share screen. And then, whoops, that's not it. And then you get at the whole problem is it doesn't want to show you there we go. I think this is it. And here's a collection of some of my favorite poses of Steve Clark from a few years, slightly before Hysteria, then obviously Hysteria time. I mean, when his hair was shorter, he started letting it go out a little long. I mean, he always had the shortest hair except for Rick at the band at one time, and but he started getting a little longer during Pyromania. But between Pyromania and Hysteria, it really got long. And it just was the iconic look for him to me was the time of Hysteria. And he just had that look. He looked like a rock star on stage. He looks like that guy. He wanted to emulate Jimmy Page, and you can see the way he holds his guitar. They talk about that. He just was a blur sometimes on the stage. He was always in motion, which they were younger then, and they stayed in motion. And he just had that look. It was just fun to watch him, and I loved his playing. They were a great tandem, him and Pete Willis, and then and him and Phil. And I've got some pictures of Pete as well, and Viv and Phil. They're all in here. But I just wanted this one. Then obviously there is the tombstone in Sheffield at the cemetery. And I know the name, but I can't think of it right now where he's buried at. But I got that news that he had died. I was devastated. And the story I was going to share was my mom. And of all these, by the way, my favorite is the one with the double guitar there. And there's a couple of ones like that. I've got another one, I think, a little later. That's one of my favorite pictures of him right there. I love the ones on stage, but I like that when he just has that an innocent look. He's just who he was. He was Steve, somebody you would want to know. And everybody loves Steve. Whereas Pete Willis got the attitude, Steve would always apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. He got just as wasted as Pete, if not more. But he was always so sorry. Whereas Pete was ready to fight, Steve felt bad. And that was the big difference. And they would never, never, never get rid of Steve, ever. They said that. Even if he couldn't play, he would still be a member of the band. They would never got rid of him. And I understand that. And I didn't know him, never met him. But you feel that, when you hear them talk about him, the love they have for Steve. And to their credit as a band, Steve is a part of every concert. He's always prevalent in the they put the big screens on the back and they show the pictures. Steve has always showed a lot in that. And I want to, you gotta show a lot of love for Vivian Cambell. He don't have the ego that is a problem. And he tries to play the music as close to what Steve did for the fans. He can play anything, although he doesn't play that one part in Gods of War. It always gives him a problem. but he tries to do that, and he plays a lot of Steve's music. I mean, there's been new music that they play that Viv has written, and very good music together with the band. But he gets to play all of Steve's leads too, which is cool. and he brings honor to that, and he's not intimidated by, after being in the band 31 years himself, he's not intimidated by the memory of Steve. And they knew each other. They always used to get together and play soccer and stuff. So it's not like he didn't know him. He knew Steve and had seen them, and they were friends, that part of the world and stuff. They'd run into each other, different circles along the way, mutual respect, guitarist as well. But some guitarists can't handle that. I remember Richie Klotson despised playing C.C. DeVille's parts in Poison, hated it. I didn't like that statement. He's an amazing guitarist, didn't like the way he acted about that. The fans love C.C., and of course, he's been back for a long, long time. But anyway, I get the news. Steve dies, and I'll put that back up in a minute. I got some more pictures, but Steve passes, and they set up a 24-hour hotline for fans to call. I couldn't get through. Obviously England is ahead of us in the time frame, so I was working night shift then. I was sleeping during the day. It just happened around the time. I think the day that he died, I was off work, but I went back to work, and all this got happened while I was at work. Anyway, my mom, bless her heart, moms are great, and she stayed up through the night and called one night every few minutes to England. And I was working that night, and I came in, and I if I shed a tear, it's for my mom. I mean, your mom's or something, and I miss her. But I come in and she said, I got through, and she was so excited. And she shared with them how I felt as best she could as a mom. And I think, by the way, this is a return, because when Elvis died, I was there for my mom, and my dad didn't understand what my mom was going through. I got it because I knew, and she knew. She knew, and I supported her while she grieved over the death of Elvis, which she grew up with. And my dad just never understood. It's just like, well, Elvis died. Well, for my mom, that was devastating. And so my mom gets it. There's nobody else on the face of the planet, for me, just my part, knows how I feel. And I was married by then. My wife certainly could see it, but she couldn't understand it like that. Happy New Year to you, Watchman. My mom understood that. And so she is living this, understanding that. It's like we're a partnership. And so I come in and she says, I got through it. I explained to them everything about how you felt about this. And she said, I hope, oh man, it's hard to say. She said, I hope it's okay. And I said, Mom, it's great, And I told you, it's hard. After all these years, it's still hard. And we grieved together. I'll just never forget my mom doing that for me. And it hit me. It still hurts. It still hurts to know that this man died that way at such a young age. And, people that just don't understand it. And I really don't, I don't care if they don't understand it. It's like, well, how could you be upset over somebody you never met? You just attach to them. There's something, they're giving you something in their music and stuff. Watchman says, I cried the day Elvis died. I crawled under the kitchen table. Hey, I understand, man. That was a sad time, man. They hit the whole world, man. God bless you. But, it's really amazing how you feel about that. But anyway, Steve dies. And so they're still trying to finish this album. And Phil says, I think we just should be a one guitar band. I think we should just be a one guitar band. And Joe and the rest of the guys said, listen, Phil, we understand how you feel, but we've always been a two guitar band, and we're going to have to we're going to get another guitarist. But Phil did all of the recording for Adrenalize, and he did Steve parts, and he did his parts, and he did an amazing job. Now, could Adrenalize been better? Well, certainly. I think there was probably areas that they probably, like, they dusted off, which I love the song, Tear It Down. They dusted it off. I mean, they had the big hit, obviously, Let's Get Rocked. And then I'll talk more about the album next week as we kind of move, because I don't have time tonight. But there were some good things on there. It was a good album. Was it great? I think it doesn't get the respect that it probably deserves. But it definitely I mean, for what was going on, that was very hard for them to be able to come out and hit that. And they had a successful tour. I saw that tour, let's see, at least 4 times because maybe even because I saw them 15 times over the 2 albums. So I've seen it multiple times. It was probably 6, to be honest. I think it was probably 6. But they did a great job, and Phil deserves a lot of credit. And later on, they found, I saw not Rick, Phil did a couple of videos, about 4 videos, talking about Steve, and there was a guitar that was locked away in one of those, cases that they travel with, where they put stuff in storage. And one of his guitars, they missed it for like 20 years. I mean, it was just not there, and they found it, and it got presented back to, it got given to Phil. I think Joe presented to Phil, and Phil used it in those videos, if you've ever saw them, and he was playing stuff in Phil or Steve's style, and how he did that for that album, and telling stories about him behind the scenes and all that stuff along the way. And so, they get the album out, but they've got, they got a tour, they got to get a guitarist. Now, Adrian Smith of Iron Maiden has said in the last, and I get it, everybody and their brother said they almost got in Def Leppard after Steve died. John Sachs was in that, Adrian Smith. Oh my goodness. There was about 6 to 8 guitarists that tried out, including Vivian Cambell, who got the call. None of those guys were going to get in. It's nice for them to say that after all these years. They did get to come and try out. They were never close to being in the band. And, I mean, people can, they did get the call, and they always want to play the what if game. Like, well, what if they really did make it? What if they got the band? It was always Vivian's role if he wanted it. Everybody can play. It was about fit. And also the fact that when you join Leppard, you can do other projects, but Def Leppard is going to be the focus. And Adrian Smith was very involved in stuff. John Sachs, to a degree, I know what happened in Whitesnake, but I don't know how far he went. There were some people that wasn't as well known that tried out. They rented a building. They did fire one guy came in. He had to show the band how to do switches on AC/DC song that he played for that. Yeah, I have great respect for Adrian and John Sachs. I think John Sachs, but he had that look. He could have fit in the band by look. He had the hair and the skill. I mean, my goodness. But it just wasn't meant to be, and Vivian Cambell was that guy. Now, obviously, Vivian Cambell, everybody remembers him from his days in Dio, but even before Dio, people remembered Vivian from Sweet Savage. He was in that, of course, Dio and some other things. He was Shadow King, River Dogs. He did a lot of different stuff along the way, but the biggest obviously was Dio. And let me pull this back down and put it back up, and then we'll look at these pictures of Vivian, which are young to old. The one in the top left is more Dio time. That was his classic look around that time. The top right looks more like the time that he first came into Leppard in 92. And then he obviously has battled the cancer and has still battled that recently. And right now he's got a clean bill of health. It's amazing. It's a miracle. He's got a clean bill of health. But he has really been put through it. He likes to work. For a long time, he was going back to flying back every 3 weeks to get an infusion in LA. And of course, that would hit him like a ton of bricks. But he never missed a show except recently, and also the NFL halftime that they did over in London. He missed that, and their friend in what's his name? I know it, and I can't think of it. He came in and filled in, and Vivian didn't like that. He's a worker. He's got that blue collar work ethic like the rest of the guys do. He don't like nobody doing his job, so he hated that, and he had to convince them on one of the tours. He was so sick, he had to convince them that he could do it. That the insurance people were concerned about it, but he convinced them. He said, "I will do this tour," and he did, to his credit. Doug Aldridge was the best guitarist Dio had after Viv. he would have been good at Def Leppard. Yeah, and there's a lot of candidates could have been there. I think the show's right because the time frame that he's been in Leppard more time than Steve was ever there because it's went so long now. I think it's 31 years now. So his career, although he will always have that Dio part because he has Last in Line, and I like the Last in Line. I think it's amazing what they've done. I hated that the bass player died, but it's a great outlet for him. He gets to go shred. He needs that. Leppard's not going to let him play like that. It's not what they are. But people, I've got friends that say, it's just a job to Viv. They don't understand. It's not just a job. He loves being in that band. He's talked about it a lot. He goes, man, it is nice to be able to ride on the big planes, get the bigger dressing room. He said, we got all this iconic music, thousands of fans in the stand. And I'll tell you a quote that you heard it, Watch, because it was in that video that he said early on in the band. I mean, because he never got paid with Dio. And he just did the tour with Whitesnake. He never got to write anything. And so now he's an equal member of the band. It's not like he's hired help. And that was another thing Leppard wanted to be sure of because it's like, we're bringing in a guy that gets a vote. He's not hired help. He's a band member. He's a member of this band. So Joe said he's got to understand English humor. Well, he's Irish. He understands that. And he said, when I talk about Faulty Towers, and if you don't know what Faulty Towers are, you couldn't even get in the front door. And here's another ironic thing. My mom was a huge fan of John Cleese and Faulty Towers, a lot of that English humor, and I used to watch the shows with her. It's amazing the dynamic, this connection me and my mom had. But he was just that guy. So in 92, of course, Queen did the big show because Freddie Mercury died, the Freddie Mercury tribute. Def Leppard has announced that Vivian Cambell is going to be the new guitarist. When I heard about it, I jumped off the couch. I was like, wow. I mean, I didn't even know I didn't even know that he was in the running. I mean, because I didn't have a lot of news about this. I was thinking in my head, who could be the guy? And I really thought they might go with the unknown, somebody that nobody even heard of, or, guitarists always hear of guitars, but around the world, they didn't really know. And then I was thinking, sure, my mind went there when I heard it's Vivian. I thought the possibilities, that was never going to happen. So Vivian Cambell, they did a club show or two with him to kind of get warmed up, but really that was his presentation to the world at that show. They did 3 songs, if I remember, 2 of theirs and 1 Queen song. And then Brian May, who is one of my absolute all-time favorite guitarists, Brian May. He come out and played with them. And they're very close to Queen, very close to him. And of course, he helped induct him in the Hall of Fame, which was the perfect choice for that. Nobody else, really. So he comes out there, and that was the first time I'd seen him with the band. And he's got the red jacket on, the jeans, the boots. He used to wear boots back in the day. Had the long hair, obviously. And, it was hard. It was a combination of excitement and sadness because that was the first time I'd seen them playing since Steve had died. And I thought, I had 2 thoughts right away. Boy, it's hard. Steve's not there. It was when it really hit, like he's really gone. He's not here and he's not coming back. Because up to then it was all news items, MTV breaking news, things you read in the newspaper, a Guitar Magazine or something. But that's when it really hit. Like Steve is really gone. Your brain that, but there's like this part of you that thinks maybe he'll show back up. Maybe it was a mistake. No, that was it. And then the second thought was I felt bad for Vivian because I know that people are feeling that. But then the excitement, I said he fits. He definitely fits. It looks natural. In fact, Joe said the same thing when he looked over and he watched Vivian on that side. That's where Steve always stood. They didn't change nothing up. He said it looked right. And he knew at that moment that they'd made the right pick at that show. And, backstage, you can imagine, here's a guy that had already, his credentials were already there with Dio. There's no questioning his abilities as a guitar player. But he's without a job. Well, he had a job basically, but he wasn't making any money. but he was helping produce some people, and he ended up playing with the Shadow King and, River Dogs. I mean, he'd done some stuff, but he wasn't making a lot of money, and he had married, house payment. I mean, that's realities. And so he's there. He's in this big band. He knows he's going to be taken care of financially, but he's backstage, and he's meeting like people like Elton John, Brian May, all these people that are coming by, and he's going, I could get used to this. I mean, how could you not? So, and has just filled that spot, I think, admirably throughout the years. I have seen them. It's really hard when you have, and I don't know what, I have never seen an interview. For me, I'm not saying it's not out there. I have never seen an interview where Phil Collins ever really talked about how it felt to have somebody else. Because if anybody's the one that would be the hardest on outside of all the members, it would be Phil Collins. The dynamic between him and Steve when they get together and they would play like Photograph intro, or they play the Hysteria part where they come together, or, Switch 625 especially, which they still do all of those things. How did he feel? It had to be hard at first. I mean, extremely hard, but he's a professional, and they do love each other. And I just saw a video here recently where they were coming off the stage and Phil messed up or something, and he's walking right beside Viv, and they're joking around, all the guys, and are back and forth, and that's family. That's family. Hey, Erwin, God bless, and Happy New Year. And Happy New Year to the one that came in and was telling me all the bad things about Trump. Okay, Happy New Year to you. You're fine. It doesn't bother me a bit. So if information is information, and I think you're assuming that I'm in the cult, and I'm not. I just I voted for him. So I like some things he's doing. I don't like some things he's doing. So it's not politics. Not music is music. We're not talking politics. So and I wasn't ignoring you. I just was in my thoughts, man. I'm just trying to keep this together for me. And feel free to share your opinions, thoughts about Leppard and Viv and Steve and Pete and Steve, all that, or Rick or whoever. But I couldn't wait to go see them. Adrenalize comes out. It was a midnight sale. When Adrenalize came out, and we went and got it. And I think on that night, was that not the same night that Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 for Guns? I think we got all that. I think we bought all those that same midnight sale, if I remember right. Joe and Rick. Well, Sav was there in the beginning too. Rick actually came along a little later. He technically is not an original member because Tony Kenning, I think is how you say his name, he was there first. So it's Joe and Sav, but Rick's been there a long time. But yeah, they got the rest came along later. But technically, I mean, Rick's been there so long, they probably think of him as an original. But Tony was there in the very early days. But when they really got formed up and got going, it was Rick. So I would say probably technically they think of him as an original member. So Sav and Joe, and they'll have to Joe will be there no matter what happens. Yeah, Sav. Yeah, man, Sav, who could have been a professional soccer player. I understand he was that good, but he had music in his heart, in his soul. Guns N' Roses, you mean Axl and the Tantrums? Hey, we're going to talk about Guns in a few weeks. I have seen them, and we'll talk about the years of Guns and what I know. I mean, there's things I won't know. There's things I don't know about Leppard, but I know a lot more about them than I do Guns. But anyway, we went and got, and I'll tell you a quick story about that. We came back. It was midnight now. I think we went to a Turtle Records. Remember them, Turtle? I think that was where we went. Got the albums, CDs. Came back, and me and my buddy, and there was one other guy that was in the truck, and we pulled up in front of my house. And those are still days. That was right before I quit drinking. So we're having a few, and we put on the CD, and we're listening to it all the way. And when we got home, which is only about 20 minutes away, we're still playing the album. So he's sitting in my front yard. We're jamming this thing. So I could see lights kind of coming on, my neighbors, different ones. We kind of decide, well, we better wrap it up for tonight. We'll talk tomorrow about it. So I went on the house, went to bed. They take off. By the time they got on the next street, the police, 3 carloads, pulled them over. They had about an hour that they were detained on the side of the road. thinking that they were smashed, carrying drugs, all this stuff. They weren't. And he told me about it the next day. My friend Jack, and I can't remember who the guy was that was with him. I think it was a guy who used to always hang out. They were friends too. And I think he came along and we were jamming. Saw the tour. It was a great tour. Man, Vio, he brought something different. Like I said, it's just different. He's playing the Fender, early days of Leppard, he was wearing like a lot of athletic, like basketball top jerseys and shorts, and a little bit different than his Dio days, but he's just been comfortable and having fun. And Phil and him were interacting real well. Within a few months, you could see that they were very comfortable with each other. That Don Valley Stadium, when Phil goes in to play a little bit of a solo, I like that part where Vivian's there and he's doing his fingers like he's playing along, and he's looking at the camera going, he's good, he's real good. And you could tell that they had a really good relationship going, and I'm sure that has developed over the years. Watchman says Turtles is where I camped out and bought tickets. They stopped after the Skinner reunion tour in '87. Cops came and they stopped the camping for tickets. Yeah, that certainly was something that you don't see anymore. I don't ever remember that. Let me put up one more set of pictures and we'll kind of talk through a little bit about while I still have time. And I don't care to take extra time, but I am going up on James's podcast about 9:30, and then after, I'm not going to stay too long because it's going to be a little crazy. And they're having fun, and that's great. But I'm going to go up about 10:30 and try to bring in the new year, and we'll just talk about whatever 10:30, 11, somewhere in there, and bring in the new year. So I will be back up, but I'm going to be on James's Empty Pockets podcast on Rumble before that. I appreciate him asking me. But let me pull this back up, and I wanted to pull just some iconic pictures that stand out in my mind. Of course, the Terror Twins picture, I mentioned that is probably my favorite picture of them together. I say probably it is. I love the Bela Lugosi, which, by the way, is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I love that guitar. Love that. It just looks so cool on that tour. And, the guitars, Steve had certain guitars he played, but that is a really good picture of them. Really good. I've always loved the picture of them in the Union Jack, the soccer outfits or whatever. That they were so young there. And Steve his hair is not quite as long there. It's growing out. And then even further back with Pete, and you can see it's not real long. It's longer, but there were times it was even shorter than that. And then on stage, Phil and Steve, they were great together. I mean, they really were. If people were ticked that Phil came along and Pete Willis was gone, man, they really worked like a glove on stage. They really did. And I realized that Phil's a very different kind of player. You had that guitar magazine. I've still got it somewhere, my man. I still have that thing. I never got rid of that. I meant to show you a picture disc tonight that I still have. I've got all this stuff put up. It's one of those hard things, man. It's like the shrine, man. I just don't bring it out very often. It's so hard, and it's been hard to not, but I wanted to do this. Like I said, after all those years, you still remember. You do, Erwin. Yeah, I would love to go. You live near the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Have you been? Man, you should go. I mean, I would go to any of those Hall of Fames, college football, NFL, MLB, all of those. I like going to, I think it's neat because you get to see all the memorabilia. That's the coolest thing. And have interaction. And you don't know who you're going to run into. You might run into somebody. Yeah. But a lot of history there. And I like pictures where Steve is smiling and laughing. He did have a lighthearted spirit about him. He did cut up. If you watch some of the videos. Now, on the Hysteria tour, his girlfriend took a lot of video, which kind of drove Joe and the rest of them a little crazy. And she said that. But she said now they're so glad that she has that. And I've watched a lot of her stuff. In fact, she had an opening of a trunk that she had not opened of Steve's and had that was revealing that to people. I think it had a pair of the Union Jack shorts in that trunk, if I remember right. You can watch that video on YouTube. But she told a lot of stories and stuff, so you get her side of this. Because listen, they were spending more time together than he was with the band, except on stage and practice and stuff, or writing, because that's they're a couple. And so she tells that side. But they have this. There's video of Steve and Phil, and they're they're goofing off backstage, and it's hilarious. And they were the Terror Twins because they played practical jokes on everybody. I mean, they're getting smashed and they're playing jokes, and he was a fun guy to be around. I mean, everybody liked him. Nobody disliked Steve Clark, and it was just he just got messed up. And Erwin says, I delivered to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a couple of times. I was able to see the hallway where the artist came in and signed the wall. Oh, that's cool, man. That is dang cool. That would be something to see just right there. The different signatures and stuff. Always like that when I go to like a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or not Rock and Roll. What is it? The Hard Rock Cafe, or somewhere like that. And I've been at restaurants where they were connected to either athletes or musicians, and they would have that stuff around the walls and stuff that was autographed for them. And I've been at places like that and see those signatures and pictures and stuff like that. That's pretty cool as well. But that 91, 92 year was very hard, but Leppard hit a home run. I mean, Vivian Cambell was definitely a home run for Def Leppard, and there's always going to be the naysayers, the ones that don't like Phil, the ones that think Vivian's constrained and he should be able to shred. Leppard's just a different animal, no pun intended. They're not going to do that, and he understands that. So he has his outlet in his own band, and they play whenever they can. At times, they've been able to open for Leppard, actually, and that was cool. And the band gave him a hard time because he went and hung out in Leppard's facilities because they had more. He said, well, it's hard to go back. But he goes back and he pays his dues, riding in vans for hours at a time because they don't have the money in that band for all the stuff, like the big band. So, they're riding for hours. They're basically trying to break even, really. I mean, it's not like you can make a lot of money, and especially this time frame. But you're just trying to pay for everything. So you have to take and sacrifice more than you would if you were in Leppard, because they're traveling big style still. They're selling out wherever they go, and they playing to big crowds, and a lot of money's rolling in. And, Viv gets to cash those checks. I think that's cool, too. Watchman says, my buddy had an Obligator story like Pete Willis when we were kids. After he got that, I saved up and bought my first guitar. Yeah, man, that kind of, you get, there's nothing like getting your first guitar, right? I mean, that's like cool. And by the way, I appreciate the invite last night. I watched all the way from that point to the end, and I really enjoyed Rick. What was that? Ruben. Man, I'm sorry, I forget the last name. Ruben. My mind ain't working. I got all this on my mind, but that was, if you don't know this guy, you need to watch him. He's amazing. But, they had a very successful tour. The Adrenalize tour was a successful tour. They had singles, obviously, like Let's Get Rocked, Make Love Like a Man, and the ballad, Have You Ever, was that the one that had the ballad, Have You Ever Loved Somebody or something? I think there were 3 singles from that. Could have been 4, but I love that they did Tear It Down on there. And it's a good album. Like I said, it's not a Hysteria. It's not a Pyromania. It's kind of an amalgamation, I think, between the two a little bit. They didn't break any new ground for the band. Although Let's Get Rocked is some of those parts in there were very different. I give them a credit for coming out with a home run hit like that in the summer tour. Fans loved it. Every show I was at, they sung Renstrom. Thank you. Rick Renstrom. If you don't know who he is, look him up on YouTube and you'll be amazed. No, a great guy. You can tell, great attitude, shouting out everybody. It was pretty cool. That'd be a heck of an interview to get. I'd love to have him, but I realize he probably gets a lot of requests. But if there's ever a chance, I'd love to have him on the show and help him all I can. Hey, Cook. Cook says, Rick was on fire last night. Cook, you got to see this guy, man. It's really, you can't describe it. You cannot describe this guy. I'll send you a link, brother. But Cook says, hi, brother, love you. Me and Dave seen Def Leppard twice together. I got an MVP for the entire, You got the MVP for the entire fantasy football season. Yes, you did, Cook. You did. And I can't believe I won. It was, believe it or not, the Falcons, to prove me wrong, had a great game and almost give it away, but won my fantasy league. So, and Cook do that. I've done that for 20 plus years, almost 30 years or whatever. We're going to amp that up a little more next year. We just kind of got it back going after a year off. But Cook, I'll tell you, we were at Atlanta at Lakewood, and I got that thing somewhere, Cook. I really wish I knew where. But they threw a leopard bandana out into the crowd, and Cook, all 6'4", 5 of him, whatever he is at that time, anywhere from 330 to 350 in shape. I mean, just a big guy, athlete, jumps and grabs this thing and clutches it. And he's got girls and guys, and they're trying to fight. He's holding it like a football player, and he's shaking these people off. We're in the chairs, man. We're down pretty close. And I thought he went down like a big guy like that. It's not good, but he got back up. But he shook them all off like a good running back and handed it to me, man, and said, "This is for you." Cook, you'll never know how that made me feel, man. I was thinking about that. I've still got that car tag, that Miami Dolphins one of Jeff. And I've been thinking about Jeff a lot lately too. Another friend of ours. Yeah, man. Hey, brother. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate us connecting up. And, we'll get you on stage sometime if you want to do it, man. We'll find out about how things are in Cleveland. Cleveland rocks, right? We're going to have to get Watchmen up too. Yeah, I did, man. I can't believe it. Like it's a miracle. In 1888, London, you're a young female walking home one night, went out of a dark alley. A man jumps out in a black trench coat. Sure enough. And it wouldn't have been Steve Clark. He throws off the trench coat, starts grinding on your leg, buck naked. You've been hit by the Jack the Stripper. Oh my gosh. Oh, nowadays you might find that at the local 7-Eleven or something. I don't know. But man, you always throw me for a curveball. Like I got my mind, it's like going in spastic in different directions now. But anyway, the Adrenalize album, I went back, and I'm going to do this on here. We're going to have a deep dive on the album because I've done every album. We'll do Adrenalize, and after many years, because at first I kind of thought, well, they could have done better. But then as you think about it, everything happens for a reason and a season and everything. And I think even myself as a fan, I like the album. I think I was a little too critical of it. And I went back, and I have upped my thoughts about that album greatly, and I see it as a home run. They did. I mean, it sold 3 million albums. I mean, sure that was riding on the excessive hysteria. The hit, Let's Get Rocked, but you're one of your main guys dies. He can't even record the album, and all the things that went on, and you hit a home run like that. It deserves its place, and I will even go further and say Euphoria. And Slang, I've changed my opinions about a lot of this over the years. And so, yeah. Hey, man, happy birthday to you. Thanks for always stopping by. I know you get out there and you go all around. And I just want to tell you thanks for stopping by. And I know it's different now. You know, Rob's off doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. Thanks for remembering the old Dave over here, the cornbread man. And you're always welcome. And I appreciate your humor and stuff, and you're always welcome on the podcast. And Cook is Cook. Roy, Cowboy, Cook. We're going to do a show about the Dallas Cowboys, me and Cook, soon. So if you want to come throw tomatoes or praise, we're going to talk. Cook's going to do most of the talking. I'm just going to be the moderator. We're going to talk about the history of the Dallas Cowboys as a sports thing while we're jonesing for some more football once it's over. I'm going to do that. So once we get through the playoffs and everything, we're going to set this up, and we're going to do a regular feature or something about football teams that you like and kind of history of them and whatever. What was the song that Mariah Carey covered from High and Dry? I don't remember. That's the short answer. Uh, I never watch her. I'm not trying to knock her and say anything bad about her. It's just not my gig. And I kind of think I remember what this was, but I don't really know. But I do remember the Taylor Swift show with them. I thought that was an amazing show. I thought, I wasn't a huge Taylor fan, but she did a great job in that show. And I'm not going to say anything bad. Her music is not my music, but she grew up a Leppard fan. And I'm going to tell you, those guys were in awe of her for how successful she was at such a young age. And, she held her own in those songs. She did a great job. That was a VH1 production. And I like the expanded because they cut off a song or two off of that. But that was pretty cool with both bands out there playing. And that was neat. I like that. I wouldn't want to sit every day or not like that, but I thought that was pretty cool. How good was it? Def Leppard drummer that continued to play the songs after he lost his arm in a car crash. The style changed. It had to, but amazing. He is the most, I think, interesting character in all the band, even though Joe has this amazing knowledge about rock and everything. The reason Rick started so young and he was this fast, he was like the young hired gunslinger in a gang. He comes along, he would be the guy with two pistols on his side, fast as lightning, and then he had to learn to adapt and be the one gun slinger. And he worked his butt off. So he showed work ethic. He showed dedication, not giving up, dealing with the tragedy of losing a friend, losing his arm, a band member being fired first, then losing his, arm, and then later on Steve. And he is an inspiration to wounded warriors all over. He does amazing artwork. He goes on a lot of the rock cruises, and he actually has had showings at one of the art museums in Atlanta, and I have always wanted to go, and it's never worked out. But he sells art there. They do a showing for him from time to time, and next time he's down there, I'm going to beat the drums to get down there. And I'm trying to think of the name of that studio. It's right off of 285, right after you get on 285. You can see it from the interstate. But I would love to go down there and see that when he has that. I mean, of course, one of the cruises would be cool too, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it. Bringing On the Heartbreak was the song I was the one I was going to suggest, but I thought I was wrong. I thought it was going to be one of the others. That was my first song that, I really attached to with Leppard. I still love hearing it on the radio. It's a haunting kind of song for me, meaning it's, it's a song that you kind of has pain. I mean, that's what good songs do. They bring anger or pain or rebellion or something. And that song does that. Really good about that. I get it for the purposes of money and updating all their stuff, but they went back and re-recorded that. First of all, they cut Pete out of that and put Phil on it and did his version. And later, I don't know if they did it with Steve, but they had to update their stuff for the catalog for some reason. And I think maybe they probably had to do that as well to get the total rights to them or something. So if you've got original stuff, I mean, you can't buy it like that anymore because they re-recorded that for legal purposes. So if you've got the older stuff, hang on to it. Like we always say, it is one of their best songs. And actually, I think it's that song. I could be wrong, but if I remember right, it's that song that told Mutt Lange that this band was willing to do, could write a song. And anyway, he just saw the talent in it. It was different. They could put something down that he really thought a lot of that song. Whereas it's very different than anything else on the album, but it fits. I mean, it fits. It really does. Richard Simmons came up to me and my punk rock girlfriend at the High Museum of Art in Atlanta. He screamed, "I love your hair. Let's get some cheeseburgers." Oh my gosh. Yes, Rick Allen was the only one not armed again. And you know why they wrote that song? It was "Are You Getting It?" They just changed it to "Armageddon" it to have a play on words. Yeah, I know. We can laugh though. You know what? If Rick was here, he'd probably laugh too. You know, he has to have a sense of humor about it. I mean, it's hard. It's a tragedy for sure, but they've overcame, and that's what they're known for. You know, tragedies, overcoming, and here they are all these years later, and they're still getting it. They've got age on them. They're refined. They're still playing very well. You change a little bit. The voices change a little bit. Joe's voice change. It's just going to happen. But I'll ask you a question because I am going to have to get off here in a few minutes. Totally off subject. But, well, some people would say it about Leppard, which I don't agree with. But what is the band you think is the most overrated band of all time? Most overrated. They're hugely successful, or they're considered cult classics, but you think they're overrated. You know, nothing against what they did or making money or everything, but you just wonder why they could be recognized like they are. You know, what is it about them? I thought that was a good question. I saw that it was actually an article I read online yesterday or today one, and somebody said that one. They said Kiss. And a lot of people, well, you know, but there are people that believe that. But I don't think that, for me, it wouldn't be that them. Don't he work the hi-hat with his teeth? No. No. I was thinking about this today as I was out running around in town, and I was thinking, what band would I say? And I came down to this one, and people can be mad. I'm just not a fan. And for all the acclaim they get, I thought it was the Doors. I just think that they're. I don't begrudge them. I'm not putting them down. I just think they're overrated for all that they did. But I guess because when you die like that, you get this cult status. They were talented. I get it, but I just, you know. Rolling Stone magazine will do an article about the Doors every day and skip over some really good iconic bands that I like because it's the Doors. And I just think that's ridiculous. Well, I could ride with that one. Dude, even better. But I barely remember them, but I know it's they tried. They changed every 5 years because you can only stay till you're a certain age. That's right. You're out of here. By the way, we are sponsored by one of them. We have a lot going on. I'm recutting the commercials and stuff this week. I was working with Shopify and the company that helps us with the coffees, and we have the logos up in the store, but we're still working on getting them on the individual packs of coffee. I was talking with them today. I'm hoping to have this straightened out by Friday or at the latest Monday, and everything will be changed over to Wolf Nation. And I'll be so happy, so happy. Yeah, NC. I hear you. But I love the logo. It looks great on there, the Wolf Nation coffee, and we're getting that switched over. I have a Fruit Hero. I'm not even going to put up the ad because I don't have it finished yet. But I got in this package from Australia. You can see how big it is. And I'm not going to show all of it, but I love I'm going to keep this box. This is my stuff just to show online. I wanted some stuff, but what they do is they have stuff that helps your vegetables stay fresh. And here's some of the Ziploc bags that they have. And on the back, they show what it is without the bag and what it is with this. But this will go up to 3 months, I believe it is. And these are reusable. You can reuse them up to 20 times, and they will keep your fruits looking good instead of bad and fresh, so that you're saving money. And this is Fruit Hero, and we have a code for them, and they gave us a really good deal. I mean, a really good deal. But it keeps the fruits and vegetables can be packed in the Ziploc bags and keep it open or in the refrigerator. But it definitely, this is just one of the items. That's just one of the items that we have. And then they have some little packs that you can save and put in some of your own packaging or just in the fridge, and it will actually help in the fridge as well. We'll talk about all this deeper later on. They even have stuff that will keep like your clothes. It's a moisture absorber. You know how you can get different humidities and stuff. And this is for your closets and stuff. That goes in there, keeps everything really good. You know, you don't want your clothes smelling wonky. And this is another kind of that as well. It's for your shoe rack. This is for the shoes. And I can't stand for that kind of stuff to happen. Because once you get that in there, it's hard to get out. But that's Fruit Hero from Down Under. And they have been excellent. I mean, we're not even really working together yet. We just started. It's taking a little while to get everything set up. But Miss Adema, who I've been dealing with, was asking about my wife today, which really I felt, the fact that she would remember and ask about my wife. I appreciate them. They're pretty amazing. I'm looking forward to working with them. I also made an order through Dubby, my brain, Dubby Energy Drinks, a new tub and a hat. Got a new hat coming in for Dubby, and we're affiliate with them. That's just some of the ones, but I'll show some of that stuff on this coming week on the air. Ads are changing. Get you some coffee and stuff if you can help us. If you can't, that's fine. Just help. It helps. It helps to keep the podcast growing. I am so excited. I want to make a couple announcements now. I'll talk about it later when I come back on. As we talk about whatever, end of year, first of year, whatever. I have no agenda for that show. Just come on and talk about whatever. I don't care. It's open call. I really have no agenda for. I'm not one of those. Let's count down the 25 events that happen in 2025. If you want to bring up a topic, bring it up. I have no agenda. I just want to hang out. What was I going to say? Dang, I messed myself up. I just went totally blank, but talking about affiliates and stuff. But I enjoy working with these folks, and they're we'll get to some of that stuff next week. But I am excited. It's what my brain finally kicked in. When we've got some neat interviews coming up, and they're all over the place. Next Monday is, and I meant to get the book out here, the Corpsewood Manor Murders. Amy Petula. I don't know if it's going to be live or recorded next Monday afternoon. We haven't decided. We'll have to talk about that, but it'll be aired live, like it's live. But it'll probably be live. I don't know. But Amy's going to be on talking about the murders, and that's Monday. Monday. Let's see. Saturday, we have another dirt truck driver. We're doing a special recording with him. And we got a lot of interviews coming with race car drivers. These guys are great. They're amazing. Friday night, meaning not tomorrow, but this Friday, I am hoping to have Chris McDaniel on. If his voice clears up, he believes it will. If you don't know who he is, he was in Confederate Railroad. He got saved. And he told me today they have seen over 3,000 souls come to Christ in 2025. Amazing. But he was telling me some stories and stuff. He's not coming to sing his voice. He's trying to take a break. He's really coming just to share. We're just going to talk about Jesus Christ. It's a ministry night, a celebration of Jesus and all that God is doing through them. He's seeing some amazing stuff. So Chris McDaniel will be on. Yes, Jesus and Mama always loved me. Absolutely. He'll be on Friday night. And the next Friday, January 9th, I think that is, we have one of the candidates. I'm working out the day to be in the early afternoon. We don't have the time set. We have the date, not the time set. One of the candidates for Marjorie Taylor Greene's, and there's several. I've reached out to two others, and so far they haven't got back with me, but she is a candidate. She's a MAGA, female conservative, military, ex-military, all this stuff. She's going to be on with me. I'll put up an announcement about that official first of the week, a week from Friday. She will be on the program. We'll be talking all things politics and about the 14th district and her, potentially going to Congress and what she's, her platforms and all that. So, and that's just where we're at. There's more coming. This is just the stuff that we're getting as we get in the new year. Things are heating up big time, and we got much planned. Much planned. We got the Brigadier General we're going to have on as soon as Biscuit Boy gets back from vacation. That'll be happening after the holidays, and a retired Brigadier General. Can't wait to hear his stories, and that'll be an on location show. So I can't wait. and I get to go to the Brigadier General's house and hear all these stories. So he's actually drinking some of our coffee right now. Paul sent some of the Cowboy blend over to him. Paul loved it, and he sent him some. And so we'll get his opinion. He might tell us it needs to be taken out, shot. I don't know, but hopefully not. Everybody that's tried it loves it, so or they'll find a blend that they really like. And we've not even tried all the blends. We have so many. Believe me, I went through today. It took me a little bit to get all those logos changed on the Shopify site, and then I've got to work with them to get that. And then I go. There's a process here, and I still got to work on the logos for the store and get the store kind of kicked off again. Pull some things down that won't be there anymore because they're not here, and doing that, and Wolf Nation stuff that's not even up yet. All that's going in motion. I'll be working on that the rest of the weekend. I don't know what day Paul's coming back. I think he's coming back Saturday, so I'm not sure if we'll be live Saturday from Ringo or not. We're also going to do a live from the bookstore down there, Book and Barrel. Book and Barrel we're going to be at. And yes, you can visit our website, which is being updated right now as we speak. Watchman says I should have Philip turn in for the interview, survivor of the USS Liberty attack. I would love to. If you have contact, let me know. I'll be glad to go look for it, but I'll work interviews, and I'm working them really heavy right now and getting things set up. Me and Paul and Dean are really hammering the phone lines, and we're bringing you different kinds of interviews. I believe in 2026, my hope is my sister's working on getting me another author. She does fiction. She's pretty big author. She's not at the top of the food chain, but she's way up there. I won't say a name yet because we haven't confirmed. I put my sister to work. My sister's in, and I'm hoping to have a once a month author in for the Wolf Nation book club. And that still is nothing. We will still be working with Three Ravens because it's going to be totally different stuff from that. And Three Ravens, I need to get them back on early in the new year and talk. They're always fun. We'll give them a chance to recover from the holidays, and then we'll have them guys back in, and we're going to bring on some more authors of their books. But we're not doing books. We're just having a book club. So they'll definitely be involved with that. We're on a new, I'm trying to think of all things that's going on. Well, I got to get out of here in a minute. We're on a site I actually had signed us up for and never got going. Scoops. We're on Scoops now, which is really hitting for us pretty good. We're kind of small there, but it's hitting pretty hard for us real well. So the Scoops social site is a new one. And we're on School, which is one you may have heard about. We're at School. We're in School. We're back in School. That's also a new site for us, and we don't have any followers there yet, but we will. Just give you updates. Keep you updated. That's what we do. We're open book. We tell you all what's going on. And if you got a connection with somebody think it's interesting, their story or whatever, let me know, man. We'll bring them on. We got to work on getting this guitarist on. I mean, I don't want to take away from his ability to make money and stuff, and he's a busy man. But if I could get 15 minutes with that guy, I would love it. Just to help him out. Ask and you shall receive. Thank you. I'm going to copy that right now. And, well, actually, I'll just click on it and pull it up, and then I'll have it. Thank you, man. Y'all are awesome. Awesome. Lives in Colorado. Very nice. I will save that, and I'll have it. Thank you, man. I'll do my best. I will do my best. Sometimes you talk to people and they go, yeah, I'm doing like 12 podcasts over the next 3 months or 3 weeks or whatever. And that's great. But then you'll talk to somebody and they'll go, I've never had a podcast ask me to be on. And that happened recently. Nobody had ever asked. And in fact, Miss Mary Fagan King said no podcast ever in the state of Georgia. We were the first to ask her to come on. I'm not bragging. I couldn't believe it. I said, you have got to be kidding me. And it was, I think, maybe the first time she did video. It was always MP3 audio. So we kind of broke some new ground. She thought that was amazing. And so we have this great relationship with her now. And she said, you would think my phone would be ringing off the hook and my email and everything else for Georgia. They never asked. And she said, it all happened right here. I live here in Georgia. You are the first. I was like, praise the Lord. I think it kind of, well, she would have went on anyway, but I think it kind of helped us kind of open the door there a little more that we were, And the fact that we were already connected, had been to the grave and stuff like that. Anyway, I could talk all night. Yeah, it's shameful, man. I'm ticked off about that. Me and Paul couldn't make it that Saturday. We are going to go. Sometimes God just tells you it's not a good day. I had some things going on. Paul didn't know it. He wasn't going to say anything, but he was really kind of needing to maybe be back earlier. And when I told him when I got in the truck, he said, my wife will be glad to hear it. We had something he's going to do this afternoon. She goes, that actually works. And we got to get ready to go out of town. And he said, bro, that is great. But he was going to do it. That's the kind of guy he is. But you just kind of feel like maybe it's, SFP got a hot scoop. That's right. And not from that website. Oh, I got to get off of here. James is going live in 4 minutes, and I've not even got in there. So, of course, I can pop in. I don't have to be there at the very beginning. He's probably wondering where I'm at. I don't know who else coming in, but I'm going to hang out there with him for a little bit. And then before it gets real crazy, I got to bail. I love them, but I can't stay when it gets real crazy. And then I'll be back on. Take care, my friends. We appreciate you. We'll go out with some music. Might not take as long because I got to go up on his show. I say got to, I want to. And I am so very thankful for the friendship that I have with a lot of these folks. And the fact that I'm asked, I don't take that lightly. They are fantastic people, and I appreciate them. See you, NC. Bless you. Happy New Year. You guys, y'all be safe if you're going out. Tonight's the night when people are getting crazy, jacked up, especially later. They'll be coming home. There's always those nutcases that they should have a designated driver and they won't do it. And we'll be hearing about stuff like it. And that's so unfortunate. So I hope that you'll just be safe. That's all I can say is just be safe. All right, where's the song I want to play? There it is. We'll play a little bit of it. Does sound like Jesse from Jackal. I like it. Makes me think of being at the Lakewood. It really does. See y'all.
Southern Fray! Live from the shade!